Hello. In line with doing themed updates about what I've been experiencing over the last 10 months in being a female body person, taking testosterone and transitioning, this is the emotive update. So these are some of the stuff that I've experienced emotionally, and some of the things that I kind of wish that I would have been helpful to know. Like, you never know how taking hormones and transitioning is going to affect you emotionally. It's just not possible. However, there are some basic things like that I find are a little bit common amongst my group of friends. And right, so something I've heard people refer to is not having a rainbow of emotions. Right now, for me, my emotions are indicative as to where I'm at spiritually and where I'm at in just where I'm at. Right, I've always been very emotive. I've always acted on and how I felt. It's the way that I am. So I noticed that in the beginning, a lot of the variety and diversity in my emotive life was leaving, and I was experiencing more of what other people refer to as the rainbow of emotion. Like, instead of having a rainbow of emotion, I was having like primary colours. Right, I've heard of this. I didn't make that up. Someone else made that up. I think it's fabulous. I'm using that because that's exactly what it's like. You know, I've gone from being able to access almost any emotion at any time and being able to play with that and use that to better myself in my life, to finding it really difficult to access these things. And I even found joy difficult to access a little bit in the beginning, and that's what makes me want to move and dance and play and train is joy. And it's kind of a spiritual joy, and I found that a little bit difficult to access in the beginning when my intuition was knocked out of me and stuff as well. So I got through that. That was really, really interesting. That was difficult. So yeah, it's kind of like my gauge as to how I am and what's happening has had to be taken down and then built up again, because the sometimes I experience emotions now without necessarily identifying them and moving on from them. Like, these things sometimes they seem to pass so quickly and so subtly now, as distinct from being overwhelmed with an emotional response and then responding to that, or doing what I could with that in order to be effective at the time. Now what I experience is the emotive response. However, it's not as overwhelming, it's not all consuming. I don't go into I don't get hysterical anymore. So I definitely feel more grounded, and I don't, part of the hormonal cycle and having that leave, the estrogen system leaving, is that I'm more stable emotionally. I'm not, my cycle is a sustenance cycle now, right? And that's a little bit different. And although I do liken to the trough levels of T being a bit similar to having, like, being a bit PMSing, so yeah. So something else that I've learned is how to cope and be in the world when some emotions just simply aren't accessible to me, particularly whatever it is that makes me cry, right? So I cry for lots of different reasons, and I've really liked crying. She's biting me! She bites! No bites, baby, no bites. We do. So, she's a little bit agitated. So the crying. I have cried, I think, 3 times since taking a full dose of testosterone. And, when, like, you're having a shit day, right? And the car won't start and this happened and you're late and then tired and then someone blew up in your face or something, like, really happened, and it can happen, and then you go and you just sit down and cry, and you're like, oh my god, fuck this FML, and then have a cry and then get up and get on with it. That was no longer an option for me really early on in transition, and I actually initially would get really frustrated with the fact that I couldn't cry. I went through a phase of, like, watching so many guinea pig YouTube videos, guinea pigs giving birth, elephants giving birth. I even heard my mother cry over the phone, and it still didn't make me cry. I was pushing myself to cry because I was like, something's wrong with me if I can't cry. Nothing's wrong with me because I can't cry. You know, I've discovered that I can cry. It takes a little bit more, you know. So having an emotional release like that, not having that as an option for coping was very difficult for me, and I would get frustrated with that. I learnt though that maybe I don't need to necessarily express things in that way through tears, even though I find them quite cleansing, and I really like crying. I mean, everyone feels better after a cry, right? I actually don't need to cry, so I'm accepting that. I'm working with that. So the emotional stuff feels, I suppose, almost beige. This could be the term. Like they feel beige compared to this rah that it used to be. And I think once I kind of settle with this a little bit more, I'm going to prefer it over being always overly emotional or overly emotionally involved or whatever. I don't think there really is such a thing as over emotional, like, to be honest. Like, how do you measure emotion anyway? I just think that what I'm experiencing now is the same. I'm the same person, and I have the same kind of emotions. I'm just not experiencing them in the same way. Does that make sense? So I'll be feeling something, and instead of it being raw, overwhelming, or running with it, I can choose to respond to it, and I can choose to respond to it a little bit differently, and it's not as intense and overwhelming. I tend to get my practical thing happening, you know, like the boy brain, like really focused on one thing. I'll be like texting, I'm texting, and someone's talking to me, and I can't hear them because I'm so focused on this one, you know, the multitasking cannot do. So, well, actually, what I did notice when I'm in the trough levels of my cycle with tea is that I can access my intuition a little bit easier. That's always good. I can multitask better. I can multitask like a mofo when my tea is in its trough levels. And also, what else? When I've just had my shot, or when my tea's kind of, well, not high, but it's as it, you know. Oh, baby does poo-poos. When it's like on its way up, I don't seem to be able to verbalize what I'm feeling and what I'm thinking as well as when it's on its way down. So I'll have my shot, and as my testosterone rises, I don't open my mouth as much when I speak. It's really, I can tell when my T is high because I get really into listening to Bruce Springsteen, misogynistic American industrial crap. She's eating my hat. And I don't open my mouth as much when I talk. At the moment, my tea shot is due today. However, I can't have it till tomorrow because the chemist has to order it in, you know, whatever. I can't verbalize things as easily, like when my tea is high, multitask or access my intuition as much. So there is a bit of a cycle in the sense that those things shift and change throughout my testosterone cycle. Yeah, I don't know if I'm making any sense. I find it difficult to articulate emotive stuff when I know that it's the whole world's, that people are going to see it. It's so highly personal, and I think getting over a lot of the fear about sharing this stuff would be really good. Maybe for some people it might help them to hear that someone else is having similar experiences with their transitioning or with their testosterone. So that's why I'm doing it. And yeah, definitely more grounded, much more grounded and much more stable, which I really love that. So yeah, that's about it on the emotive stuff. They just kind of a little bit beige. That's okay, because I got, like, sometimes I felt like I was experiencing an intense overloading of emotions. So to have a little bit less to work with is okay, as long as I can continue to access joy and just feel that love and that joy, and as long as I can cry occasionally, then I'm good with that. So yeah, that's my emotive stuff. And speaking of emotion, we're gonna just do some love. Do love. Peppy loves Danny, and Danny loves Peppy, like this. And Peppy loves Peppy. Look.